Okay, welcome everyone to Freedom Union Wednesday night team call. So tonight we have a guest speaker. I love guest speakers. We share a lot on our team page, so it's really awesome that we get to hear another voice. I've never talked with Ryan. I've only talked with him through Messenger. He did a call for our team Dynamo last summer that was epic for me because it was about your why and about stories, and you guys all know I live that. I'm so passionate about it, and it's tie off of Wesley's call last week, just our personal development, and so I wanted to tie it into the why, and I have an assignment for you guys at the end of the call that I'll say when Ryan's all done sharing. But I messaged him and I was like, hey, can you do a team call? And here. And this ties into the question that I asked you guys today about reaching out and finding success partners, and actually made a really great. Just like, don't be shy about talking to people and reaching out to other coaches, because the more you know, the more you grow. And when you're around like-minded people, you just get bigger. So I'll introduce Ryan. He'll take off. He's 7-star diamond. He's 2-time elite coach. He's a Success Club All-Star legend, 55 months to be exact. He started coaching in February 2010, and he has such an amazing story, and his why is so good. So I'll let him take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on this team call. I love doing team calls. And one of the things I always say when I start talking on a team call is that I think we talk about personal development a lot in Beachbody, and I don't know, you guys talk about personal development on your team? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you do. It's a big part. It's one of the 3 vital behaviors. Right? If you're not talking about it, you're not paying attention to Beachbody, really. But I think most people personal development really as like reading books, and then maybe some audio, maybe you do some YouTube videos and whatnot. And I think there's a couple of forms of personal development that people don't think about, and they're more powerful in a lot of ways than the books, audio. And one of those, well, I'll narrow it down to one broad category. That is putting yourself out there in front of other people. It is a form of personal development, in my opinion, that can catapult you from not confident and not able to talk to people to all of a sudden confident and able, well, maybe all of a sudden. But over time, as you do it more and more, it helps you so much. So I always recommend, doing, getting live certifications and things like that, and teaching classes and getting on people's team calls. If upline asks you to tell your story on a team call, say yes and do it, and just get out there and put yourself out there. If you feel like you're not good at speaking, you need to do it. You need to get out there and do it. And I think that one of the other places you could do that, you could even go to something like Toastmasters. If you've ever heard of Toastmasters, you can join a group like that and learn how to public speak. But I always take these opportunities because I often get more out of the opportunity to speak than the people who are listening. And you will grow more by getting on something like this. You will become more confident. Like when I started teaching PIO live, which, there's not a lot of guys who teach PIO live. When I started teaching PIO, it was a challenge for me because I was not a dancer or into music at all. I didn't know what an 8 count was. I didn't know what a 32 count was. I didn't know any of that stuff. And so having to move myself, do these hard moves, there's stuff in PIO that's super challenging, core stuff. I had to hit the move on time while I'm talking and cueing at the same time, while I'm counting and make sure I'm on time and all that stuff. Like when I did it, I got up in front of other people and I did it, I nailed it, and then people come up and they're like, that class was amazing. Like your confidence level just goes boom, right? And when you talk to people with a confidence level that's here instead of a confidence level that's here, what do you think happens to your sales? What do you think happens to the number of people that want to follow you? What do you think happens to people that want to join your group and want to become a coach with you and be a part of what you're doing? So any way that you can increase your confidence, which, the more skill you have and you have that skill, is going to increase your confidence. So get more skills, So speaking on calls is a skill. And I developed it by saying yes. Whenever anybody says, do my call, I say yes. And the other thing that I know I'm kind of like not talking about what I'm supposed to talk about here, but the other thing that that I always think is that all the people who I've ever asked to do my team call, almost every single one has said yes. And I'm talking about like 15, like Mike Ryan has done my team call, and Josh Spencer has done my team call. Jimmy Nelson's done it. Just anybody that I've ever asked said, "Will you do my team call?" And they say yes. So, well, if all these people who really have no obligation to say yes to me say yes, then I should say yes too. So I do team calls. Okay, so it's kind of a little bit of a side note, but think about now. As far as my story in 2009, let's start in 2009. I could go back a little bit further and talk about weight loss because I lost like 100 pounds before Beachbody. So I did a lot of like calorie counting, and I played racquetball, and then I got into triathlon, and I started doing triathlons, and too far back into that story. But really what I want to talk about kind of starts around 2009. I was doing triathlons. I'd lost the weight. I had started doing half Ironman level. I hadn't done an Ironman yet, but I was up to half Ironman level. And my wife got pregnant. It was planned after my first half Ironman, actually. She got pregnant. And we're engineers, both of us, so we worked things out. It was like planned, like, okay, your half Ironman is here. Okay, then we'll start trying to get pregnant, and then we'll have the baby about here, and then you can start training for this one right afterwards. So we had it all planned out. Yeah. But when the kids were born in 2009, and twins is what we had in 2009, when they were born, it was a big, big change for our family. And I didn't realize a big change it was going to be. I don't think anybody who has twins, or maybe even just one kid, realized how big the change is actually going to be. But one of the things that changed was that I couldn't go on 3 and 4 hour bike rides and long runs and all kinds of stuff because I would be leaving my wife home, twin newborns, which is not a cool thing to do. I wanted to stay married, so I had to stay home and find ways to stay fit. And so one of the things I did is I was like, I remember seeing like a infomercial for some like super hard workout program or something called P something. I don't even remember what it was. And so I Googled whatever I don't remember what I Googled to try to find. I didn't remember the name. I didn't remember P90X. I just remembered commercials with Tony Horton. And so I found it, and I bought an eBay copy of P90X. I did not buy it from a coach. I didn't know any coaches. I bought an eBay copy, and it was absolutely a rip-off copy, pirated copy from somewhere, because there was so many mistakes in the book. Like, not like the mistakes that we'll sometimes have in Beachbody books, but I'm talking about like every page had 5 typos on it. It was like really bad, and things that didn't make sense and all kinds of stuff. But the P90X, it still worked. It was fine, like the DVD still worked. And I got really great results with it. And so I was able to like pause the DVD if my wife needed help, right? So that's what I did to stay in shape. And I got good results with it. I started incorporating it in and into triathlon and things like that. And I was on P90X Facebook page, and they had posted, "What do you use P90X to cross train for?" And that was one of their posts back in the day. And they used to have like 4 kinds of stuff on like pages. It's changed a lot now. But they posted, and I commented, "I use it to train triathlon." And a guy, Dave Ward, who is also a triathlete, or wasn't much anymore, but he was at the time really into triathlon, and his wife is coach, Monica Ward, was on the P90X page and saw my comment. And I also had a Soma hat on, which was my first half Ironman, which was in Tempe, Arizona, which is where Dave lived. And so he saw my comment, saw the hat, friend requested me. I was like, who is this guy? I don't even know who this guy is. I sent him a message without accepting the friend request, and was like, yeah, hi, who are you? And and he was like, oh, I just saw your Soma hat, and he just connected with me with triathlon, blah, blah, blah. We talked for a while. And it took me probably about 4 or 5 months before I became a coach. So I was one of the people, I always tell like little pieces of that really are important for you guys to get. One is that I bought an eBay, I didn't buy it from a coach. How many had someone go buy from Amazon or something like that. That right there is your next 7-star diamond coach downline. Okay. It's not the end of the road. Somebody goes, buys a copy out of eBay or Amazon. You know, people do that and they just don't quite understand yet. Okay. The next little piece of it is when Dave's first talking to me about coaching, I said I wanted to do it going on this trip where I was going to be out to sea for the Department of Defense for like 2 weeks. And any point in me starting before, because I wouldn't be able to work on it. And I gave a bunch of excuses. I couldn't sign up right then. And I'll sign up when I get back. People have heard I'll sign up when I get back from this. Sign up when when I get paid. I'll sign up when this happens. I'll sign up when I get back in school, blah, blah, blah. And I knew Dave probably had to be thinking, right, he will. Yeah, okay, whatever. And I came back and I did sign up though. Okay, so I came back, sign up. And then over the year of 2010, I went Emerald, but did much else. The year of 2011, I was Emerald, and I went in and out Emerald. And then at the end of 2011, what happened was really, really tired of working for the government. And my wife and I had decided that I was going to pursue triathlon coaching, and I was going to end up staying home after our project was over. So that was going to be sometime in 2012 that I would be quitting my job. And at the same time, Beach came out with challenge packs at the end of 2011. Some of you probably weren't around at that point, and have always packs and probably signed up with a challenge. But when I signed, I didn't even sign up with Shakeology. I didn't buy Shakeology until like 5 after I became a coach. And that's how most coaches signed up back in 2009 and 2010. Shakeology wasn't really as big a part of it. It had just come out and people did, they were like, oh yeah, that shake thing. Now we have challenge packs. With challenge packs and the idea of challenge, I was like, oh, a challenge group, that makes so much sense. Invite somebody to something that we're going to do together instead of somebody to buy a product. Like, it's so much different than just saying, hey, do you want to buy a product? Say, hey, do you want to do this with? Do you want to do this challenge with all these people? And that involves buying. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Started a couple of challenge groups at the end of 2011, and when I started, Beachbody was everybody to do 5 people in a challenge group and cut it off at that. That's how they started it out. So I did that to start 2 in my first month. As I just started inviting everybody to do this challenge group, and 2 5-person challenge groups, which if I had to go over again, I would just make it 1 10 group. But that's what they told us to do at the time, was make 5-person challenge groups. So I psychology to our challenge to 10 people in the month of November, when I had never made Success Club before in my life, had gone in and out of Emerald, and it was like, oh, this works. I can do this. So I made how many Success Club points in November, and then in December I made Success Club 10 in both. And so November of 2000 was, or October of 2011 was the last time I did not make Success Club. I just went from there, all of a sudden. And at the time, I was realizing that the Beachbody, once I realized, hey, this Beachbody bit has a lot more opportunity in it, one-on-one triathlon coaching people. So I need to put a little bit more time in this. And by the time I quit in my engineering job in March of 2012, my checks were coming at like a $30,000 a year rate, my weekly checks. Multiplied them by 52 with a $30,000 a year. I was giving up like a $100 a year engineering job, so I wasn't making that up yet. But by the end of 2012, I think I made 70,000 or so in 2012, the first year I quit. So I was not that far from my engineering salary. In 2013, it was 100,000. In 2014, it was like 115,000. And that's not even that great growth compared to some people I see. People doubling their income every single year, like going from 100 to 200 in 1 year and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what happened to me. But there's the important things that happen within that story where I went from an M coach for 18 months to going diamond like early in 2012 after making Success Club for the first time ever at the end of 2011. And one of the things was that I was quitting this engineering job and I was doing it to stay home with kids. And I had this big why sitting out there that was like, I want to be home with my kids, and I also don't want to change my life, right? So my wife, we were going to live on her salary, and if I didn't make it with Beachbody, we were just going to cut style in half. It's doable. I mean, you could not complain about my wife's salary and say we can't even make it or anything like that. But we were going to cut our lifestyle in half, and so I was like, that's not going to happen. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be able to come home. I'm going to be home with the kids. And I had this big why. And so I started doing it, and as I started working through it, that happened that catapult. So 2012 was a good year, and I made $70,000, whatever it was. And I had this why: I want to be home with my kids. I want to have money, blah, blah, blah. In 2013, I started working with somebody from Beachbody Corporate because I was starting to make Star Diamond, and it was looking like I had quite a few elites. I think I was like 23 on the elite list that year in early 2013. And so somebody from corporate usually works with people and kind of helps them, see what their elite points are and what to do. And this guy named Kobe Mitchell was the guy that I worked with at that time. Kobe's actually a coach now. He's not with corporate anymore. But he sat down with me, and the first thing he asked was, what's your why? I don't know what your why is. And I was like, Dave had worked with me on this, and so like David said, what's your why? And we talked about the kids and all that stuff. And I'm like, I got this. Let me tell you my why. It's a big one. That's why I'm doing so well, blah, blah, blah. I thought I had it all figured out. And I went to him and I was like, well, it's my kids. I want to be home with my kids, and I want to be the dad, can spend time with them. I don't want someone else raising my kids. I don't want to put them in daycare. I want to be able to make a solid income while still spending with my kids, and I want to have that schedule for you. And he phone call, so he couldn't look at me, but I looked me right in the eye, and he's like, why should kids want you home? Like, okay, so you want to be home. What's the benefit to your kids? I was like, well, that's a dumb question. Every kid's father home. And he's like, no, I don't mean it like you're not, I'm not saying that you're not, it's not good for you to be home, or that it's not as wonderful as you think it is. I just want to define it deeper, you to go deeper on it and tell me what exactly it is being home with your kids. What do you think, what are your ideals about raising kids that make you think that a parent home with them, especially the father, is a benefit to them? Why is that better than daycare? Seems like a stupid question, but think about it for a second. How did you grow up? He says, you grew up, was your father always there? And it turns out my dad owned business in construction and was home a lot, home office. And I learned, when I think about it, I learned most of what, like a good my street smarts or things I can do around the house, handyman type stuff. I changed my own oil. I could build, all this kind of stuff. Like, I learned that all from my dad being home. If he worked every day, I would things that I know, about life in general. Really meant something to me growing up. And when we started talking about it, and he was asking why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? Why do you think that's good? Why, I started to realize that I really valued my dad being home, because I felt like what he had given me had been a huge benefit. Him being there had made me who I am, or at least in part had made me who I am. I wanted to give that same thing to kids. I didn't want my kids to be raised by someone. I wanted to be that influence that dad was on me, and my mom as well. My mom was home as well. And so when I got it deep like that, when I went a little bit further with it, it just like, it went from like cruising along to like pedal to the metal. I was like, oh, okay, this bigger why. This is a bigger reason to do this. This isn't just like, well, I should be home with my kids. This is, I have a reason, right? And so, you know, this is the analogy that I use. And I use this with people that I'm working with. And you guys should, you know, feel free to take this. And some of you probably already, when you're working with someone on weight loss, not on, you know, becoming a coach and building a business. When you're working with someone on weight loss and you ask them, what's your goal? That's usually what people ask is, what's your why? Because that's somewhat internal body, but you can ask what's your why, but ask what's your goal. They'll tell you, I want to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds. It's all in terms of, right? For most people, I would say 90% of people tell you I want to lose 20 pounds, right? So I'll ask people, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? Look at me with the same look that I had when he asked me, well, why should your kids care if you stay home with them? And why should you want to be home with your kids? It's kind of like, they look at me like, what do you mean, why do I want to lose 20 pounds? Because 20 extra pounds, you know? And it's like, so here's what I say to them. Okay, so if you walked into the bathroom today and stepped on the scale and the scale said 20 pounds less than you were 5 minutes ago, but your pants fit the same and you are just out of breath walking upstairs you currently are, and you feel exactly the same as you currently do, everything's exactly the same except the scale says 20 pounds less. Is that what you want? Well, no. Well, okay, so let's define what you actually want, because you don't want the scale to say less. You want what you get when the scale says less, right? So apply that. I mean, that makes sense, right? You don't actually want to say less. You want the result of the scale saying less. You want the way you feel, the way your clothes fit, the performance you can do. Maybe you're a runner and you're like, if I get 20 pounds off, I know every pound gives me 0.3 miles an hour. There's some form there for that. I don't know if you know that, but you know, like every 5 pounds is half a mile an hour or something like that of pace. Probably not universally true, but you know, I know that if I lose 20 pounds, I'm going to be faster. So, okay, well, you don't want 20 pounds, you want to be faster, right? And you think 20 pounds is the way there. So when you're working with a coach who wants to coach, like all of you who are, I want to be a good coach, you have to get yourself down to what it is you're going to get when you're successful as a coach, right? It doesn't have to be like the long one necessarily. You can have like short-term ones in between. Like, what am I going to get if I make Success Club this? What is it that, you know, is it just going to be that my up puts my name on a cover photo of our group? Some people, that's enough, and that's a huge why, because they love to be recognized on the cover photo of the group, right? And that's great. That's not me. I personally don't care about the cover photo of the group. I want other things. There's other things that drive me to make Success Club this month. Like, for me, it's more like, hey, it's 55 months in a row. There's no way I'm not making Success Club like ever again, because I'm going to keep that streak going. There's other things. But you can have all these little whys in there, but you've got to think about what you're actually getting from it, and not just the number or the, you know, well, I want to make $500 a month. I want to make an extra $500 a month. Why? Why do you want to make $500 a month? What are you going to do with it? If you make an extra $500 a month and you don't get to spend it on anything, did you accomplish your goal? Did you, you know, like, what you actually want to do is be able to pay off this bill or that bill so that you can travel more, or you want to use the money to travel more, or you want to use the money to pay for your kids this or your kids that, or you want to be able to shop more, like you want new shoes. I don't really care what it is. It doesn't actually matter if it's vanity. It doesn't matter if it's, at least to me, as far as yours, it doesn't matter to me if it even is something that I would be disgusted by if you told me what it was. As long as it drives you, then it's a good why. right? Now, it may not be a moral why, you know, and we're not here to discuss that. That's something different. What I'm saying is that what you get from it has to drive you so much that you won't watch Game of Thrones tonight because you have people to message, right? Like, it has to be that big of a why, or, you know, to meet your goals, especially if you have big goals. Now, if your goal is, I want to make a couple $100 extra a month, and you can get away with Game of Thrones, then that's cool. That's your decision to make. But if you're going to say, I want to be the 6-figure earner, I want to be on stage at Summit, I want to be an elite coach, I want to do this, I want to do that, you have got to have a why that's so big that Game of Thrones doesn't matter. And you've got to have a why that, you know, that I won't hear out of your mouth, well, I have to have 7.5 hours of sleep or I'll be cranky, you know, and things like that. I hear that from people on my team sometimes, like, I have to have 7 hours. Like, I just have to have that. I'm like, to me, you know, that you just don't want it bad enough. You don't have a big enough why to push you. Because I'll tell you, when I am dialed in on my why, when I'm dialed in on what I want, I will stay up till 4 a.m, you know, and I'll get up again at 5 and work out, you know, because it's that big for me. So what I want you guys to do is take whatever why you've written down right now, because I hope that you've written down some kind of a why. And I want you to ask yourself why over and over and over again on that same thing. Just be like the little kid that keeps asking why. I've got this, there's a video out there. Do you guys know who Louis C.K. is? Anybody know who Louis C.K. is? He's a comedian, right? He's got this video about his daughter asking him why. And it's absolutely hilarious. I actually made a video about your why and cut this clip in, because he's like, his daughter's like, why does it rain, Daddy? And he's like, I don't know, because there's vapor in the clouds and then it condenses and falls or something like that. And she says, why? Because, yeah, I don't know. That's all the things that I know. Then she starts asking, well, why is that all the things that you know? Why don't you know more? And it gets, like, if you watch this clip, it's hilarious. It just gets to the point where he's just like, I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't know what to say. But you need to be a kid like that just keeps asking why to the point that it just seems ridiculous. Just keep asking yourself why. Well, I want to make $500 extra a month. Why? Well, because I want to travel more. Oh, why? Well, because I like to travel. Why? Well, because I have fun traveling. Well, why? You know, like, down to the point of where do you like to travel and what's so freaking fun about it? You know, like, ask yourself what's so fun about traveling. Is it because you get to say that you went somewhere, or do you actually have fun when you're there? You know, ask yourself these questions. These are important questions, right? You don't want to travel. Maybe you do want to just travel just so you can check a mark off of your places you've been. Maybe you want to travel because you actually want to experience the place. Those are different things, right? And you should know whether you're traveling because you want to check a block off or whether you want to actually experience it, because you're going to do different things while you're there, right? And so then once you figure out what it is you want to do, I think you need to, like, live it in your head as best you can. Like, when I started, like, I'm going to quit my job, I lived out in my head what each day was going to look like with my kids. What was I going to do? You know, like today, while my wife was at work, the last 3 days, I've been teaching my kids how to ride a bike without training wheels. And I actually think about that while I'm sitting out there watching them ride bikes. Like, I'm not at work, and I don't have to go to work, and I can do pretty much whatever I want. And when my kids go to bed at 8 o'clock tonight, I can work for 4 hours if I want to, right? And that is what the vision I had in my head of what my life was going to be like when I quit my job. And I wanted it so bad. I was like, that is amazing. Like, the idea that I could go to the park at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and teach my kids how to ride a bike, and then come back and do 2 hours of work and then cook dinner and then work at 8 o'clock at night. That is my ideal life right there. I wanted that. And so it drove me. And so ask yourself why, and then have a vision in your mind of what that looks like and how it feels and how it tastes and how it smells and how it is to live that life. And then you're going to be much more driven to get it. Okay, that's
awesome. And I want you all to take into effect that he's been coaching since 2010, and he can still like taste his why on the tip of his tongue out watching his kids on their bicycles. Like, think about that. Like, that's rooted a why is. You have to ask yourself why again and again, again and again. Like classic Tony Robbins. Like, you ask yourself questions, and how you get good at asking clients' questions, all your friends' questions, is you begin with you first. Everything in this business begins with you. It does not begin with bells and whistles. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't. It begins with you. You have this deep-seated thing. You're going to figure it out, and you take your wings and you go. You're going to tell your goal coach. You're going to tell your goals to your team. You're going to tell your goals to yourself in the day, and you're going to write it every single day. Like, I'm so passionate about this stuff. You guys know this. It's just like,
I think the things that strikes me as you're there is that I don't know how many of you, when you talk to somebody, there's like say, let me get an example here. So you introduce Shakeology to somebody, right? And their response is almost like a canned response that's not based on actual experience, or it's all based on culture and what they've heard and hearsay, things like that. So they say, oh, well, I already drink a protein shake, because they think Shakeology is a protein shake, right? Because they think, well, if it's a shake and it's powder, then it's probably a protein shake. And you have to ask questions in order to get to the fact that they don't actually have any experience with Shakeology. They don't know what it is. They don't actually know anything about it. They're just answering based on facts that they have that they think they can apply to it, right? The thing is that with your own why and your own things, you do the same thing to yourself. Some of the things you think, say, and do are based on what other people have told you, what other people expect of you, what society expects of you. There's all these influences that are causing you to make decisions and think things. And ask yourself the question, why? When you say, well, I really need to work a job, because of insurance or something like that. You got to ask yourself why. Have you actually researched insurance to see how much it costs? Or have you just heard that insurance is too expensive unless you get an employer to pay for it? Most people will tell you, it's great to have a regular job because then I have insurance benefits. And they've never looked at how much insurance costs. They've only heard it's really expensive and that you need an employer to pay for medical insurance for you. And so you're so lucky to have a government job that pays for that, this job that pays for that, or whatever. Never actually looked at it. Now, if you do look at it, you may find that everybody that's told you that is right. But you need to ask yourself that question, like, am I just saying because I've heard that? Or am I saying this because it's actually true? How many of the things that you think are actually true are actually true? And how many of them are not true? And you never asked yourself to go to it or figure it out. You've just taken what society says, right? Just the way people take what society about powdered shakes. They're all the same, just a bunch of protein. Same what people say about, some people say, I don't could ever work out at home. Have you ever tried it? Well, no, but there's just outside influences telling you things, and until you get down into your own brain, you'll just still think these things. Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. We're kind of running over, but I was just going to say, I won't do the since we're kind of over, but I want to challenge everybody to not have these notes be notes that sit there. I want you all to totally dive in, ask yourself why again and again and again and again, and post on the team page. Post your why. about your why. It doesn't have to be like, you're not going to, I mean, maybe some of you know, like now, and you like just are doing it right now, but just put these notes tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day and see what happens. Give yourself a chance. So Ryan, thanks so much for getting on. I so appreciate it. Does anyone else have any questions or anything before you have Ryan go? I want to say anything? No? Okay.
Nobody?
No, I guess not.
I will. You know I will. I just wanted to say that obviously, Ryan, that was an amazing call, and I really appreciate it because I think that we all go through these times of struggle where we like lose our motivation. It's a roller coaster, and we all know that. And deeper into your why is just, it is the foundation of your business. It's the foundation that's going to catapult you to the next level. So it isn't necessarily a question, but I was just going to say to the team that kind of going off the thing, your why is going to, if the farther down the rabbit hole you go into why, it's going to come down to emotions that you feel. What emotions are you going to feel? And so how you were saying, like, I constantly picturing how my day was to be once I, got to that level. A lot of that's going to come down to the emotions that you feel, whether it's weight loss or your business. So I would highly suggest writing a vision letter, and talking, like, write out how your day is gonna be. So, because that was
I think I've heard a couple of people, talk and say that when when they had a particular vision of what life was going to look like, and say it involved a beach in a certain place, they'll tell you that they actually were there on that beach before they were ever there. Like that's not necessarily a thing that you can just do. You have to practice that. You have to work on that. You have to work that out in your brain. You can't just, I don't know how to feel like actually on a beach that I'm not on. Well, nobody does. You have to work on that, and you have to think about it so much and picture it so much that it's almost like you're there. That anyone will tell you that's really done it. They're like, I was already here before this happened. I already was helping kids ride their bikes before today. I had already done that. I was just now getting to actually live it out. I had done it virtually.
I love it. Does anyone else they want to say or anything? Well, we'll let you go. Good night, everybody. Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
See you later.